So the next item that we have in this chapter is microscopic anatomy of the skeletal muscle. So let's take a look at some of the characteristics that we have right here. This is the muscle cell here in yellow, and inside you can see inside the muscle cells you have myofilaments and myofibrils. Myofilaments is the machinery that will allow the muscle to contract. And let's scroll down all this so we can see that part right here. What is a muscle made of? Fascicle. What is a fascicle made of? Muscle fibers. What's a muscle fiber made of? Myofibrils. What is a myofibril made of? Myofilaments. Which ones are the myofilaments? Thin and thick. What is another name for thick and thin? Actin and myosin. So let's take a look at this with a little bit more detail. So we scroll up and we're going to see this part right here. You have in here the thin and the thick filament again. Are these the only proteins that we have? These are made of proteins. No, we also have this. This is an elastic filament. This is a protein called dystrophin, and these are other proteins that we have inside our muscle cells. These two are the ones that are going to perform the movement. This one, the green one, the elastic filaments that we have in here, they're going to basically anchor these filaments so they can actually have a support, an area to attach to in order to perform a movement. Thin filament eventually is going to move, and this movement is going to be transmitted to dystrophin. Dystrophin is going to transfer this movement to these other proteins, and these proteins, they are going to continue with what the tendon is. Remember, muscles are attached to the bones using tendons. Look at the distribution of these filaments. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. What do you have in here? 1, 2, 3, 4. But these ones are thicker. So if you look at this from far away, from here to here, all this area is going to be darker because these are thicker compared to this area. So if you scroll down, clear, dark, and they come from right here, clear, dark. Obviously, if you continue here, clear, dark, which is what you have in here, clear, dark, clear, dark. This is obviously shown in here. See by these columns? You can see that clear, dark, clear, darker, and this is the sarcomere, and it has different lines and bands, and that's why you see these names right here. So this is obviously the H band, the M line, the C disc. Sarcomere goes from one side to the other C disc. Now there are a couple of things that are very important. This is the myosin head. In the myosin and in the actin or thin filament, you're going to have three players: actin, troponin, tropomyosin. So if we keep scrolling up, we get to the same area where we were before. This is the cell. What is the name of this cell? Muscle fiber. What is the muscle fiber made of? Myofibrils. And what's the myofibril made of? Myofilaments. That's about it for this part. Okay, let's continue with the next topic in this chapter, which is nerve-muscle relationship. We said that we need a nerve in order to make a muscle move. So right here you have the nerves, and this nerve is going to be called a motor neuron. Later on, you're going to see when we are in the nervous system chapter that you have different kinds of neurons. For example, you have sensory and motor neurons. In this case, this is going to be a motor neuron because it's going to make your muscle move. The nerve in red and the muscle fiber right here, they're going to get together in this white area that you guys see there. That is the neuromuscular junction. So let's take a look at that with a little bit more detail. The neuromuscular junction. So what is a neuromuscular junction? It's the area, junction, where the nerve, neuron, and the muscle, muscular, get together. So what's the neuromuscular junction? The area where the nerve and the muscle get together. What did I say that they get together? Because they do not touch. You scroll down right here. Again, we have, what is this thing in black? The nerve. What is this thing in red? The muscle fiber. What is this area then? This is the neuromuscular junction. Okay, so we have in here a graphical representation of that, where here you have the nerve, and down here you have the muscle. This black area right here, you see, that's the space between the nerve and the muscle, and this black area is called the synaptic cleft. That's the space between the nerve and the muscle. So then if the nerve and the muscle don't touch, then how is it that the nerve is able to transfer the information to the muscle so the muscle can contract? For that purpose, the nerve is going to have these green vesicles inside here. In these vesicles, in these balloons, that nerve is going to have a chemical. And this chemical is called ACH, or acetylcholine. So when the impulse from the nerve comes down here, it reaches the vesicle. The vesicle is going to release the neurotransmitter in the synaptic cleft, in this space. The chemical is going to diffuse, is going basically to swim through this space, and is going to reach the purple receptors that you guys see here, these purple receptors. Once the neurotransmitter, acetylcholine, gets in contact with the purple receptors, now the information is already at the level of the muscle, and that's how the information gets transferred from the nerve into the muscle. Why? Because the nerve has a neurotransmitter, and the muscle has a receptor for that neurotransmitter. What is the name of the neurotransmitter? acetylcholine. And the receptors, they are called nicotinic receptors or muscarinic receptors. So let's keep scrolling down and see what we have. So we say synaptic cleft, we say acetylcholine receptors. Okay, and now we reach to this area where we will have to talk about electricity. Right here you see electrically. Therefore, we need to talk about voltage because voltage is the way we express electricity. If you really think about a AA battery, the one that you put inside your remote control, for example, it has two ends, the top and the bottom, right? And the top and the bottom, they're going to have different charges. One side is going to be positive, the other one is going to be negative. So then how come in our body we can have positives and negatives in order to have voltage? Well, that got to do with the different type of ions that we have inside of us. For example, we eat with French fries, we put salt. What is salt? Sodium chloride, right? And what is the charge that sodium has? Positive. What's the charge that chloride has? Negative. Okay, then if you just think about these two ions, then there you go. Once you eat the salt, you have sodiums and you have chlorines. Therefore, you have positives and negatives inside your body, and that's how you can get the electricity.